Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Sri Vishakha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpat Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschachade Shatarane Mukham Karoti Varachanam Pangam Lagyate Gire Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Kurutina Taranam Pamanam Pamatam. Hare Krishna. So we will start with our presentation for the week.
Sankarshan Group.
Hare Krishna. So we are Sankarshan Group presenting on topic perform one's duty without attachment. I am Santi, playing a role of stressed worker, constantly anxious about targets and performance.
Hare Krishna, I am Priyanka, someone who is playing emotionally resilient, mindful, and have healthy boundaries.
Hare Krishna, I am Nikita, who is spiritual and harmonizes Vedic slokas with practical corporate work styles. So let's begin.
I honestly don't know how I'm going to survive this quarter. The targets are impossible and every single email feels like a ticking time bomb.
Take a breath, Shanti. You've been running on adrenaline all week. You're doing the work, but you're letting the anxiety of what might happen consume you. You need to set a boundary between your effort and your peace of mind.
Priyanka is right. What you are experiencing is exactly what the Bhagavad Gita addresses in chapter 5, verse 10. It's a beautiful sloka that talks about how to act in the world without letting the world drown you.
Easy for Krishna to say. He didn't have a micromanaging boss. How does a thousands of years old verse help me with an unrealistic Excel tracker?
Let's look at the words. The sloka says, Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti ya lipyatena sapapena padma patram ivambhasa, which means one who performs duty without attachment, surrenders the results unto Krishna, is unaffected by sinful action, just as a lotus leaf is untouched by water. The secret lies in understanding who the real doer is.
I love that imagery, the lotus leaf. It lives in the muddy water, but the water just beats up and rolls right off. It doesn't soak in. For an office worker like you, Shanti, that water is the culprit, stress.
So, do I just escape from my work or stop caring about the quality?
No, not at all. You care about the quality of work, but you remain untouched by the results. You aren't the sole doer. Work sincerely with complete honesty, but know when to stop.
This can also be applied to parenting. Parents should lovingly guide, educate, support their children without trying to control over every outcome. By doing their duty and letting go of attachment to results, they remain caring guardians rather than anxious controllers. The love remains, but the toxic attachment rolls off like water on a lotus leaf.
Okay, I see that. But what about a student? My niece is studying for her competitive exams and she is a nervous wreck.
For a student, this is the ultimate antidote to exam fever. A student's duty is to study with focus, curiosity, and discipline. But when they sit in that exam hall thinking, if I fail this, my life is over, the anxiety freezes their brain. If they apply duty without attachment, they think, I have prepared well. I am placing my efforts at the feet of the divine. Now I will just write.
So I am responsible for the canvas, but I don't control the weather on the day of the exhibition.
Hmm.
Beautifully said. Do your work as a sacred duty, hand over the results to the universe, and watch how that corporate mud stops sticking to you.
Right. Surrender to Krishna by dedicating both failure and success as offerings to Lord Krishna. Just instantly release the heavy burden of anxiety. Now, turn off your email notifications for some time and reactivate the lotus leaf mode. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very nice. I like your three-step formula for attaining peace at work. And I think all the challenges that you described are very real. Having a micromanaging bias and emails that are demanding so much attention. So very nice spiritual solutions to material problems. And thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so we can now go to the Q&A part of it. If anybody has any questions on chapter 5 or anything that is prior to that. Yes, Amit Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. So, I have a question related with Shlok 5.29 when Krishna mentions Shanti Mrichati. So, is that peace primarily an internal state or does it depend on external condition?
So the piece that Krishna talks about over here, the conditions are described in the first 3 lines of the verse, like Bhoktaram Yagatapasama Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Surdam Sarvabhutana and Gyatva Shanti Rachati. So who is the person who acquires this Shanti? Who recognizes that Krishna, he is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices, austerities, etc., etc. And why does he acquire peace? He acquires peace because it develops detachment in the person, right? Because like in the presentation just now, step 2 was do everything and surrender to Krishna, right? So this is a verse that is essentially talking about that Bhoktaram Yagatapasama. So these are all different paths. You know, Bhoktaram is basically a person who's following the path of karma, looking for enjoyment. And then Tapasama is the austerities of Jnanis, etc. So whatever they do, if they do it with this understanding that Surdam Sarvabhutana, that Krishna is ultimately the well-wisher, he is ultimately the source of everything that one gets, then one develops detachment, and that detachment results in Shanti. Right? Peace and Shanti is also considered to be a stand-in for liberation, to achieve peace or achieve liberation.
So is that the detachment, is that compatible with ambition?
The dejectment, which dejectment?
Detachment, is that detachment compatible with the ambitions?
It's a good question. Um, a lot of what you will see that Krishna recommends us is, except for the very early part of third chapter, is adjusting our internal consciousness. He does not focus that much on the external, other than avoiding sinful activities, right? So, yeah, Srila Prabhupada would often share that one of the problems that he had was that he was very ambitious. And he wasn't satisfied with one temple, he wasn't satisfied with 10 temples. Right? He said, one problem that I have is I never think small. I always think big, right? So his ambition was dovetailed in service to Guru and Krishna. So in itself, its ambition is neither good or bad, but if you're using it for things like more power, more wealth, then it will definitely drag you down. If you're doing it to improve your spiritual endeavor, or if you're doing it with some level of detachment, it will not affect you to that level. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Good question. Nikita Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, in several verses, Srila Prabhupada explains Nishkam Karma in terms of bhakti. And a Sthita Pragya person is one who engages mind, senses, and consciousness entirely on Krishna, which is exactly what devotees do. So, is there really a difference between Nishkam Karma and devotional service?
Thank you. So firstly, I want to appreciate the fact that you're studying it so thoughtfully. It's a subtle question. So when Nishkam Karma is initially introduced by Krishna, it is Gyan Ashrit. So it takes shelter of the knowledge that I'm not the body, I'm the soul. Because if you remember, until the 7th chapter, Krishna does not really introduce the topic of bhakti. Right? He doesn't speak about himself till the 4th chapter. There also he speaks very briefly. Right? So everything that he's speaking to Krishna is based on those 30 verses that he spoke in the 2nd chapter, which was that you're not the body or the soul, 2:11 to 30. That he's established Krishna Arjuna on the spiritual platform, and that's what he's speaking on. So Nishkam Karma at this stage is being executed on the platform of one's own spiritual identity. Later on, when Krishna introduces himself and bhakti, same Nishkam Karma is then executed on the platform of relationship with Krishna. So there are two ways that you can be detached from the work. Right? Prabhupada gives example for both. One is, I'm not the body, I'm the soul, so I have nothing to do with the body and the senses, and therefore I'm detached. The second is, everything belongs to Krishna. Prabhupada says a servant, he may do a lot of endeavor, but everything is being done on the behalf of the master. Or the bank teller is distributing a lot of money, but he doesn't own any money. He gives out money, takes money, right? So that is Bhakti Ashrit, Nishkam. Now, the point that you're making is that in the purport and even in the translation, Srila Prabhupada will link Nishkam to Bhakti right away, beginning pretty much from Sthita Pragya onwards. And Prabhupada does that because he wants to connect us to the ultimate goal. Right? The one thing you'll notice is that anything other than bhakti, Prabhupada will connect it to bhakti. In the sixth chapter, when Krishna talks about Astanga Yoga, it almost looks like Prabhupada is quarreling with Krishna. Like Krishna says, do this, Prabhupada in the purport says this is useless. And when Krishna says, do this, then Prabhupada says, this is known. In Kali Yuga, there is no point in doing it, right? It's almost like he's criticizing Krishna, but he's not, because when Prabhupada says Bhagavad Gita as it is, what it means is that he absorbs the mood of Krishna. Like Krishna takes Arjuna through a gradual path, and Srila Prabhupada in the mood of devotee takes more risk than Krishna. He takes us directly to the path of bhakti. When we're doing Bhakti Shastri, because we're doing it a little bit more analytically, so we try to make this distinction. But when we are doing it in terms of giving classes or preaching, then obviously we adhere to what Prabhupada says, because that's what is practical in this age. Jnana Ashrit Nishkam Karma is almost impossible to practice. We even cannot do sakarma. We cannot do pious activities. So what to speak of detached pious activities?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yes, Akhila Mataji. I'm not able to hear you. I think maybe you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Prabhu, so Jnana Ashraya, so in that case, that Nishkama Karma Yoga, who are we surrendering the fruits to? If there is a distinction between Jnana Ashraya and the second, like the Bhakti relationship with Krishna. So if that's the first case, then who are we submitting the fruits to? Like, I would say, how to term it?
True, good question. So with Jnana Ashrit, the focus is more on detachment. With Bhakti Ashrit, as you rightly say, because we are all trained as devotees, so we think like that. Right? So it's a very natural question that I'm doing something, I've gotten out of it, I have to give it to Krishna or somebody. Right? So that's how, as devotees, we think. Jnana Ashrit, it's like we are detached with it. It doesn't have to. We don't really surrender it to anybody, but we do it with a sense of detachment. So that detachment manifests as, like I gave the example. So how about the Jnana Ashrit Nishkam Karmi be that he cooks something? Now detachment doesn't mean that he cooks something and then he throws it away, saying I'm detached from it, right? What it means is that he cooks something and he eats it, and is equally satisfied whether it is good or bad. And he will only cook as much as he needs, right? Not so much. And if he is more advanced, like in the fifth chapter, the distinction is made that at an earlier stage, the Nishkam Karmi, he does everything and with a sense of detachment. If he's more advanced, then it says that he only does what is minimally needed for his survival. Right. So they only do the bare minimum for keeping body and soul together, and that also in a mood of detachment. But that is one reason why Jnana Ashrit is difficult to follow, because with bhakti you have something that you can repose your faith on, right? You can say, okay, Krishna, this is for you, right? So it's easier for us to do, and that's why, as I was explaining, Srila Prabhupada keeps getting our attention back to bhakti. But just because this is a more analytical study of Gita, we do make that distinction so that the devotees are aware of it.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. So with your permission, then I can start with the summation of the sixth chapter. So sixth chapter is Dhyan Yoga. One of the simplest chapters in Bhagavad Gita, at least from the perspective of understanding, right? So again, we'll go over just for the sake of continuity, that in the first chapter, Arjun refuses to fight, gives reasons, then surrenders to Krishna. In the second chapter, Krishna gives him the knowledge of the soul, the Sankhya, then performing one's prescribed duties, which is karma, and then finally, Buddhi Yoga or Jnana Ashrita. Buddhi Yoga is a synonym for Jnana Ashrita, Nishkam. But again, it should not be too much taken by this, because later on in the 10th chapter, Krishna uses Buddhi Yoga as a stand-in for Bhakti Yoga. Right? So just to be aware of that, but at least here, it's a stand-in for Jnana Ashrita, Nishkam. So third chapter, as we know, Arjun is confused between karma and jnana, action and inaction. And Krishna at this point explains that one who has desires must act religiously and get purified. So this is a gradual path of purification of sakam karma, which is karma according to the Vedic scriptures. Right? And he says that even if one is elevated to the stage of nishkam, one should still act to set an example for others. Yadevajrati Shreshtas. And Krishna then concludes the chapter by advising Arjuna to act piously while cautioning against sinful activities. Fourth chapter, one of the more complicated chapters. Krishna begins with the epistemology, right? How do we get the knowledge about transcendence? We get the knowledge from Krishna through parampara given to us by a bona fide spiritual master. And the fourth chapter is also more analytical study of Nishkam karma, that by maturity results in Atmakyan, that I'm not the body, I'm the soul. And so we see that so far, other than the first 11 verses of the fourth chapter where Krishna speaks about himself, Krishna is, as in the previous chapter, is mostly absent. So fifth chapter opens up again with Arjun being confused between action and inaction, especially the last when Krishna says he seems to be glorifying both of them, that with this weapon of knowledge perform your duty. Right? So he seems to be conflating karma and jnana. So fifth chapter is kind of parallel to third chapter. Krishna develops the same themes, but he goes a little bit deeper in it. Right? And specifically, in order to develop how to become Nishkam, Krishna explains about the three doers, the Jiva, Paramatma, and Prakriti, how Kam connects, Kam or lust or desires, they connect the Jiva to Prakriti. And from Prakriti, from the modes of material nature, comes the repeated cycle of birth and death. And by cutting that off, the Jiva can now turn to the Paramatma. And so the fifth chapter ends with Krishna introducing the notion of Paramatma. So this is a progression also that we see, that so far Krishna was speaking about detachment. And this is now the first time that Krishna starts speaking about attachment. Right? Till the fourth chapter, Krishna is just Nishkam, 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 right? Nishkam, that do not have attachment, do not have attachment, right? Now Krishna is, he introduces as a teaser towards the end of the fifth chapter the notion of the super soul, and now he starts developing the notion of attachment. So this is how we practice our spiritual life, on two rails of material detachment and spiritual attachment. Right? So, for instance, we look at the four regulative principles that we follow. They are essentially to develop material detachment. And then we chant 16 rounds, they are to develop spiritual attachment. Right? So it's in a way we are untying ourselves from one, this anchor of material desires, and we are trying to tie ourselves to spiritual aspirations. So connection with the sixth chapter with the fifth chapter is, and that Krishna concludes the chapter by introducing the natural progression of a Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is to develop attraction for the super soul, Paramatma. So having spoken about Paramatma, now Krishna will speak in greater depth about the process to realize the Paramatma, right, which is essentially Astanga Yoga. And in the second verse is essentially the linking verse with the fifth chapter, where Krishna says that what is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Right? So here Krishna is establishing the renunciation of the desire for sense gratification, which is Nishkam, as a prerequisite to the practice of Astanga Yoga. Right? So it's a natural progression. So, like I mentioned, the chapter is very simple and straightforward. It begins with introducing the notion of Astanga Yoga. In this first 9 verses, Krishna actually quickly revises Nishkam once again. Right? This is actually the 5th time in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna speaks about Nishkam. And here he gives a brief summary just for the sake of continuity and links it with Astanga Yoga. Then the main chapter is practicing of Astanga Yoga. And he concludes with what are the various destinations of the yogi. So advancing to Astanga Yoga, practicing Astanga Yoga, and the destination of the yogi. So just to understand the path that Krishna is taking us to, that first in the 3rd chapter when he glorified Sakam Karma, what was included over there was enjoyment of one's desires, but according to the prescription of the Vedas. Then execution of prescribed duties, whether you like them or not. And what this helps the person control the urges. Like if somebody has an urge to do vikarma, like perform activities whimsically, then Sakam Karma is a way to control the urges. In Nishkam Karma, the practitioner performs the prescribed duties, but without material desires. And this controls the urges and the senses. And because it's the senses that desire the engagement with the fruits of the work, or even the execution of the work. Right? So Sakam Karma is urges. Nishkam Karma is control of urges and the senses. Astanga Yoga is the next stage where the person is desiring liberation, and now he gives up all duties. So this you can relate to the answer that Krishna gives to Arjun's question in the 5th chapter, where Arjun asks that what is better, for me to give up my activities like karma sannyas, or for me to give up the attachment to the fruits of my activities, karma phala sannyas. And Krishna says they are the same, but karma phala sannyas is better, and then he explains why, because the purification of the activities. But nevertheless, Arjun had asked the question of karma sannyas, giving up of activities. And Astanga Yoga essentially is karma sannyas. That in Astanga Yoga, one actually gives up the performance of all activities. Obviously, sinful activities they've already given up. Even the prescribed activities, they give up. So this stage gives complete control of the urges, the senses, and also the mind. Because mind is the is the place for desires. Right? So one is now also controlling their desires. So this is the gradual development. Sakam karma and Nishkam karma helps in developing material detachment, and Astanga Yoga is the process that starts with I meant spiritual attachment. There is a process that begins to develop spiritual attachment. Now the question is that we say that the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are, can we hold the questions till later on? So we had said that the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are karma, right? And we are now talking about Astanga, which clearly is giving up of karma. So why do we still place it over there? So a few reasons. One is because of its complete dependence on karma. So in the previous screen, we established that only by going through the process of Sakam karma, Nishkam karma, is one able to purify the urges and senses till the point that they come to they're qualified to execute Astanga Yoga. Right? And Krishna says that one who has not renounced the desires for the fruits of action cannot be either a Jnani or a Astanga Yogi. Right? So because of this complete dependence on karma, it is even though it involves giving up karma, but it is still mentioned as a part of the karma chapter. Second is that because of the similarity in giving up the desires from the results of action and jnana, and in stopping the internal functions in form of the thirst for enjoyment. Right? So essentially, in up till the chapter 5, Krishna is talking about karma phal tyag, right? That you do your activity, but you be detached from the fruits of the activity. Now Krishna is saying that and as part of Astanga Yoga, you can also give up the activity. Right? Now there is a difference, obviously, between the two, but Vishwanath Chakravarti notes that because of the Gauna Vritti and because of the secondary symptom, which is both of them have the result of the person transcending karma, whether it is by detachment from the fruits of karma or detachment from the execution of karma. In both the cases, they are transcending karma. So there is the similarity in both of them. So that's why Astanga is still part of karma. Then as we will see that the initial 4 stages of Astanga are actually executed on the platform of karma. And so even though we say Astanga is giving up one's duty, that only happens in the final 4 stages of Astanga Yoga. Right? The first 4 stages are actually on the platform of karma. So there is a distinct overlap, and that's why there is this confluence with karma. So in 6.3, Krishna says that for the practitioner of yoga who desires to attain steadiness in meditation, practicing karma are the cause of his elevation to that stage, since they purify the heart. Right. So this is the stage of a neophyte yogi, that he is looking to transcend, but he is using karma as a way to transcend. Now, when the yogi becomes more advanced, yoga rudasya, then he can stop the prescribed duties because he has now been able to control his desires. Right? So he is no longer affected. So all that glory of the karma that you can still, through karma, you can still satisfy your desires in a controlled way. Your mind does not vary, the Phalgu Vairagya doesn't happen. all that is not a problem for this person because he has already controlled his desires. And so for him, the stoppage of the karma is the cause of maintaining steadiness. Yeah, so 8 limbs of the yoga are, this does not really appear in the chapter, but because we're talking about it, I just have a few slides. All of you probably are aware of it. So the 8 limbs are yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. Right. So just a quick description. Yama is prohibitions. That what is it that you should not do? Like should not eat too much, should not sleep too much, should not eat too little, should not sleep too little, right? So there are all these prohibitions that are there for the practitioners. Niyam is the injunctions, right? With a steady mind, in a peaceful place, with detachment. So these are the injunctions. The first are the don'ts, the second is the do's. Asana is body exercises, right? So essentially, the asana stage of yoga is what is widely considered as yoga in contemporary understanding, right? Whether it is doing different kinds of asana, and Prabhupada would often say that it's one of the early stages of Ashtanga Yoga. It's part of the karma section of Ashtanga Yoga, and you can only do it in the context of yam and niyam, that after you're following the prohibitions and injunctions, right? It's not that you were indulging in intoxication and meat eating, and then you do some asana and you expect to get any results out of it. And the reason that the yogis do the asana is to extend their life. Asana and pranayam, they do this both for extending the life. Right? Asana they do because as part of meditation, they have to sit for a long time. And if they do not have their body properly tuned, so like after we sit for 10-15 minutes, we become fidgety, our knees start hurting, and we want to get up and take a walk. But the yogis will sit for literally hundreds of years, right? So that's why the asana prepares the body. Pranayam extends the life. And because the process of yoga is very long, it cannot be done in one's natural lifetime. So as preparation for that, the person first controls the breath, and pranayam is prana, actually the life airs. So they're able to elevate the life airs and hold them there, so they can live for thousands and thousands of years, right? So these 4 stages, yam, niyam, asana, and pranayam, are really the material part, because you can see there's a lot of activities that are done. And this pratyahara, so ahar means food, and pratyahar means where do you go for food. Now this is not the food that you eat, this is the sustenance of the subtle sustenance of the person. So pratyahar means that now the person is not looking externally for any sustenance, they're only looking inward. So it's a change. Generally the person is looking for the senses to engage with the sense objects. The person is looking for the environment around them for sustenance. But at pratyahara, the person now makes a conscious change, that the person withdraws the senses from the external and engages them internally. Dharana is that after you have taken your focus inward, what is it that you focus on? And dharana kind of decides, because there are yogis who will focus on the super soul, right? And they get mystic siddhis. There are yogis who will focus on the Brahman, and they get impersonal liberation. There are yogis that will focus on Krishna, and they actually have the same destination as devotees. But this is something that they consciously, depending on the conditioning, what instructions they receive from the spiritual masters, then they take on an object for their focus. And when Lord Kapila instructs on Sankhya Yoga, he also speaks about Ashtanga Yoga, right? And there he speaks very elaborately about dharana. that how the yogi should focus on the lotus feet of Krishna, keep looking up, looking at his legs, his thighs, his hips, right? A very, very detailed procedure of dharana for a devotee. Dhyan is meditation, that one now begins to focus their mind on the object of their meditation, right? And samadhi is absorption. So samadhi and dhyan are similar. Samadhi is a more intense stage of dhyan. The difference is that in dhyan, one forces their mind. So there is a push. The mind is pushed towards the object. In samadhi, the absorption is so complete that the person does not have to endeavor to push, but there is a pull. So we see in a material context. So right now, we have a lot of absorption in material things, right? So we don't have to endeavor. So when we are chanting, we have to force our mind to think about the holy name. And as soon as we stop thinking about it, it goes towards the material aspect, because that's where our absorption is, right? It pulls us. We don't have to push our mind towards it. But devotees who are more advanced, they have a different situation, right? Their mind is absorbed in Krishna, and they have to pull it away and push it towards the material aspect for just for sustenance or for preaching purposes. So the first 4 stages, as I mentioned, is called the preliminary stage of yoga, where there is work that is the basis of advancement. And the last 4 stages are the advanced stage, where now person gives up all work. So in the preliminary stage, the focus is on continuing with the detachment that was built through Nishkam. So Krishna talks about detachment from material things. So one sees a gold or stone, a pebble, they're all the same. There is detachment from situations, right? That one sees good and bad situations in the same way. There is detachment from relationships. One sees a Brahmane Gavi Hastuni, like a Brahman, an elephant, or a Chandal in the same way, because they see the Paramatma within there, right? And along with this detachment, one is now developing attachment to the Paramatma, right? So this is the path for progress, right? The challenge, as Arjun will later on say, is controlling the mind, right? Because now it is very subtle. There are no rules and regulations that can help you now. It is your mind. So the challenge is control of the mind, and Krishna gives the solution later on in the chapter. It doesn't come in the first word, but I'm giving it here for completeness. That he says, Abhyasena Sapanteya Vairagya Suchyate. That abhyas through practice, and vairagya is by determined detachment. Right? So by these 2. Now, for a more advanced yogi, Krishna talks about it in the purport of 6.13.14, that the goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see the localized form of Vishnu, and not for any other purpose. So when Krishna says not for any other purpose, Prabhupada says not for any other purpose, he's talking about people who say yoga for good health, or yoga for passing your exam, or yoga for mystic siddhis, etc. So not for anything else, but to see the form of the Lord in the heart. So this is the path of perfection. Now the interesting thing here is that if you notice in the 5th chapter, Krishna has not talked about the goal, right? Except towards the end of the 5th chapter, where he introduces Paramatma, right? Otherwise, he's mainly talking about detachment, Nishkam, material detachment. Beginning from the 6th chapter, Krishna, he starts talking about the goal of spiritual attachment, right? And he actually talks about it 4 times, right? I think because this is a topic close to Krishna's heart, and it's also the segue to the 7th chapter. So we'll see that 4 times in this chapter, Krishna takes Arjun from the path of material detachment to spiritual attachment. Right? From like in 6:2 to 10, he talks about Nishkam Karma, conquer mind, renounce desires, give up work, establish relationship with the Supreme. 11 to 15, he talks about the execution, Yam, Niyam, Asana, and Pranayam. Then he talks about the subtle aspect, which is regulating the mind, and finally, again, attaining the kingdom of God. 16 to 23, control of urges, discipline, renounce desire, and see the self as soul. And 24 to 32, similar, abandon material desires, control the mind, and meditate on the super soul. So from sadhak to sadhya, from neophyte to perfected, Krishna basically walks Arjun through and us through 4 times in the chapter. So this is Krishna emphasizing that the purpose of one's engagement is not simply to develop material detachment. Right? And 5 times in the past, Krishna has glorified material detachment. Like when he speaks about Nishkam, 5 times he has described Nishkam in order to glorify material detachment. So in order to make sure that he compensates for it, 4 times over here, he is speaking about spiritual attachment. That material detachment is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. The end is that the material detachment should result in one, developing attachment for the Lord. So destination of a yogi, Krishna talks about, because the process is long and difficult, Krishna talks about the yogi who fails to control the mind, or one who after many lifetimes and a lot of practice is able to successfully control the mind. And then he talks about the respective destination. That if one falls in the early stage of yoga, the first 4 stages of yoga, then one gets birth in an opulent aristocratic family. Because Arjun is worried that the process of yoga is so long and the chances of failure are so high. What happens if one fails? And Krishna says, there's no loss in endeavor. If he says one who does good does not come on to any evil. So even if one fails in an early stage, they birth in an opulent aristocratic family. If they fall in a mature stage, then they take birth in a devotee family, right? And they get an opportunity to advance, because in the mature stage, they've already started practicing spiritual attachment, right? So they are able to now take that to the next stage, which is bhakti. The success is Paramatma realization, and the perfection is Krishna consciousness, right? So if a yogi, while meditating on the Paramatma, achieves a perfection, then they get what is known as Paramatma realization. Paramatma realization essentially means is that they go to Brahmalok, the planet of Lord Brahma, and then after perfecting their practices over there, they go back to the spiritual world. And in terms of the yogi who is meditating on Krishna, whose dharana is Krishna, they go back to Godhead. So why does Krishna speak about Astanga Yoga? Because it's a bona fide process. It is one of the next steps in the gradual spiritual advancement, and also gives Srila Prabhupada the opportunity to show that it's not practical. Right? When you read the purports, you will notice that. Right? Almost for every verse, Srila Prabhupada says, this is what Krishna is saying, but it's not practical for the age of Kali. So in a way, till the 6th chapter, Krishna has walked us through the path of Sakam, Nishkam, Atmagyan, and now Astanga Yoga. And Astanga Yoga now has been declared as not practical. Right? So in a way, the 7th chapter, it wipes the slate clean. And then Krishna writes the story of bhakti over there. Like bhakti is not dependent on any of these gradual processes. So summation, Krishna explains that one is sufficiently purified by Nishkam karma, then he may give up karma and practice Astanga Yoga. This requires control of the urges, the senses, and the mind. The earlier part of Astanga requires active engagement, and the later part is meditation. The process is long, and the chances of fall down are very high. And Krishna will conclude the 6th chapter with Yogi Nam Api Sarvesham Marpatinantar. So he talks about the perfect yogi, the highest yogi who is a devotee, right? And then that is the segue into the 7th chapter, where Krishna will now speak about bhakti. Okay, so this gets us to the end of the 6th chapter, which, as I said, it's a straightforward chapter. So we have completed it with some time to spare. So I know last time I took 10 minutes of your time. So today I'll give you back 10 minutes of your time. We'll end over here. Yes, Akhila Mataji.
Prabhu, so when the yogi is not successful, he is so in the mature stage. He's born in a devotee family, spiritually advanced family, and otherwise. So what happens? I mean, I'm just trying to understand. Is there a difference? So when a bhakti yogi, like a devotee, when I'm not successful, and so is it the same? Like I will be born in a aristocratic family. If I'm not in a very
Not successful.
mature.
Thank you. It's a good question. So what happens to a devotee, a bhakta who's not successful? Krishna, because the path of bhakti, there's never any loss. So basically, when you take birth again, you start from the point where you left off. Now, what are the situations that are conducive to it? Like Krishna says, taking birth in a family of a devotee, or purvaras, right? The second thing is that even if devotees don't take birth in a devotee family, they're born with that. Purvaras is like you have a strong attraction for something, but you don't know what that thing is. But you do have a strong attraction for it. So to some extent, we all have experienced it, that when we first came in contact with Krishna consciousness, there was a sense of deja vu, that it makes sense, that you take quickly to it because a lot of things, they suddenly start making a lot of sense. That's because you're just, all that was there, you're starting off from that point, right? So Krishna gives us that opportunity, that he will allow us to come in contact with devotees, receive mercy of devotees, and then pass in. Madhuri Kadamnik, Vishnu Chakravarti does a more analytical dissertation on that what happens to when devotees take to bhakti, and then essentially he finally he says, could it be mercy of Krishna? And then he says no, because bhakti is so precious, Krishna cannot afford to be partial. And then he says, could it be one's past pious activities? He says no, from material things, spiritual things cannot come, right? And then finally he says that even though Krishna is impartial, the devotees are partial. So ultimately he says it's because of the mercy of the devotees. So a little bit more than that. He says purvaras also, because of previous devotional activities we performed knowingly or unknowingly, even Agyat Sukriti, unknowingly we perform devotional activities.
So there is a connection where that aristocrat. So I mean, as a practicing devotee, if I'm trying to like see like that similarity where I will be given like a comfortable environment to practice my bhakti. So there is like a similarity for Ashtanga yogi and a bhakta in that sense. Is that right? It's just that Okay, Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
So you're right, that Krishna does create an environment that is conducive to practice of bhakti. Yeah. Little bit of wealth, not too much wealth. Right? Little bit of comfort, little bit of Aishwarya, not too much Aishwarya. Right? So Krishna creates an environment. Now the only exception to that is that there may be a devotee who desires wealth. Right? There may be a devotee who has strong, because we are all Mishra Bhakta, right? We still have material desires. So there are devotees who may, because of strong desires, not able to perfect their bhakti. And because the devotee desire, that's what they get. You know, they desire wealth, so they're born in wealthy families.
So for a bhakti yogi, there's no like a specific definition like Ashtanga yogi to say, if it's a premature, I mean like a initial stage or a mature stage, it's not like in sense of specific classification. He'll be in an aristocratic family, he'll be in a spiritually advanced family. Like there is
Not really.
no, correct. Yeah, okay. That's what I want. Okay.
Good point.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Ananta Shesh Prabhu, you were raising your hand during the discussion, during the PowerPoint also, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so just for future reference, it's a little difficult for me to take questions while I'm speaking because it breaks the train of thought. So I would have to ask you to keep your question till, well, today we have time, but otherwise to the next discussion.
I understand. I raised my hand to keep my position in line, but I could have waited. That's fine.
Okay, I understand.
So my question is in reference to one of the slides, where you had the three pains. What's the what one achieves by Sakama Karma, Nishkama Karma, and then Ashtanga Yoga. One resulted in controlling the urges. One was controlling the urges and senses, and the other one controlling urges, senses, and the mind. So my understanding is it is the senses that is urging us to do things, wanting to go towards the object. So I'm trying to understand the difference between controlling the urges and controlling the senses. They both seem to be the same. I want to understand what the difference is.
You're right, they're the same. The difference is that the urges will drive us towards the impious activities. Like if we have uncontrolled urges, then we would not be able to, let's assume somebody has urge of satisfying the tongue. If it is so strong, then they may indulge in meat eating, etc., just to satisfy that, the urges. When we're talking about control of the senses, it basically means that we are regulating the engagement of the senses with the objects, even within the realm of what is prescribed. So, for example, you're doing some activities that is a prescribed activity for you. Right. So let's assume you're an engineer, you're doing activities that are prescribed for you. And when you control your urges, you don't use that stuff to do illegal stuff. When you control your senses, then whatever you do, you don't become too proud of it. That I am the person that created this, I should be enjoying this, I should be glorified because of that. Right. So it's basically controlling our within the realm of piety, it is controlling. So this essentially is a symptom of nishkam, right? So, so kam is the desire to, kam literally means lust, but just the desire for being attached to either the result of that activity or the activity itself. Right?
Sure. Thank you.
Good. So we'll end over here. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions. Next week, I think, Swarup Raghunath, I think 6th chapter is the last of the module 1, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. So because we have the group presentations also on the chapter 6, which essentially is part of module 1. So we will have the next week class with the group 6 presentation, and we will step into module 2 with your group presentation. And that's where we will end the module 1 for a break and the exam prep.
Okay, so next week we'll do the chapter 6 presentation. I'll do the chapter 7 summation.
Yes,
And then
Prabhuji.
after that, we'll take a week's break. And then that's essentially for you to prepare for the exam. And then a week after that, we'll start with module 2.
Prabhuji, I had one question. I don't know if you can. I couldn't raise the hand. It's not fixing properly. My question was that if we do also a Raj Ashtanga Yoga along with the Bhakti Yoga and chanting, and keep in mind about the Nishkam Karma, will it be better if we combine and plus we're gaining the knowledge, all those 4 yogas together? Then, because I think all this is also part of a bhakti yoga only, right? But exactly the bhakti yoga, how is it different from other of these 3? Are they part of bhakti yoga or they are?
It's a good question. So Prabhupada would say that Bhakti Yoga is like a 100 rupees note, which contains everything: 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 50 rupees. So it contains karma, gyan, ashtanga. So the detachment that karma gives you, you get it from Bhakti. The Atma Gyan, knowledge of the self that you get it from Bhakti. Paramatma Gyan that you get it from Bhakti. So they are all part of Bhakti in terms of the results that they deliver, right? So we do each of these to get a certain result. And by doing Bhakti, we get all the results. Now, does not mean Bhakti has the Ashtanga, the 8 steps of Ashtanga Yoga, but it delivers the same result that you get by performing Ashtanga Yoga. So when one performs Bhakti, then there is no need for them to perform Karma Gyan or Ashtanga. Now, having said that, there is no harm in taking support of them. Like I'll give you an example. There are some devotees before chanting, they will do 5 minutes of pranayam. And it just helps to clear the mind, and they're able to chant better rounds, right? And there are people who will also study the Vedas scrutinizingly to further appreciate the position of Krishna. So there's no harm in doing them as long as they're supporting angas of bhakti. From a practical perspective, it's a little difficult to manage all of that. But from a theoretical perspective, yes, as long as the focus remains on the goal of bhakti, which is service to Krishna.
Service to Krishna, bhakti means only the chanting or also the and taking prasadam, right? That's what I read his purport, that you do chanting and take prasadam, that is all you need for the bhakti. Or you really have to do rituals like bathing and dressing every day and doing also the like fasting. And what exactly will bhakti include? Because he said even with Gyan Yoga you can attain me, but even with Nishkam Karma Yoga you can attain me. Gyani to meri Atma hi hai, somewhere he says, right? So the Gyan chanting will be for Gyan also, or what exactly will be bhakti which is different from these things? That's what I wanted to know.
I think your questions are a little bit too broad and generic
Yeah.
to address. Which group are you in?
Pradyuman.
Pradyumna group, right? So my recommendation would be to get some one-on-one time with your mentor.
Okay.
Right, and they can spend more time because your questions, they're very good questions, don't get me wrong, they're very good and sincere questions, but they're very broad and generic, not really within the scope of Bhakti Shastri. Right, so
Yeah, because I'm just a beginner. I just joined.
yeah, Bhakti Shastri is more of a
Advanced course. Yeah.
It's a teaching course, it's not a preaching course, if you understand what I mean, right? So people
Yeah.
who come to Bhakti Shastri have already made this determination, right? They've read Prabhupada's books and they have understood the fundamentals of bhakti. Questions that you're asking are very sincere and good questions. I will not be able to address them and basically in the time that I have, But which is why I say that reach out to the mentor of your group and have a discussion with the devotee.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you for asking. Yep. So we'll end with the pranam mantra. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभयश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनाम पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। जय गौर प्रेमानंद।
Hari Bol.
Hare
Thanks, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.